New Thought Media Network is pleased to present The Inclusive Church, Ideas and Resources for Leaders of Multicultural Ministries. The Inclusive Church with Tracy Brown. Tuesdays at 12 noon Mountain Time. Join Tracy and her guests as they go deep and share practical tips and resources you can use in your ministry. And now let's explore the Inclusive Church with Tracy Brown.
Hey everybody, Tracy Brown here, and we may be having a little bit of a technology glitch. I'm not sure, but I know I got some praying folks on the other side of this screen, and you're just going to take a deep breath with me and go, technology works. Technology works for Tracy. Technology works for the Inclusive Church. All is well. Let's do this. Hey, so if by chance this is your first time being with me on the Inclusive Church, we do come together every week and think about, talk about, and recommit to creating spiritual communities where inclusion really becomes the culture, the way that we operate with each other. And when I say church, I am not talking about a building. I'm talking about any place and any format where people gather together on a regular basis in order to explore spirituality. And that can be in ministries of all forms. And if you hear me say leaders, I am not simply talking about ministers. I do hope that every minister is a leader, but I think every minister would agree with me that they would not be able to execute their ministry without lots of other leaders who are committed to the mission and the vision of that particular ministry. So leader means anyone who is, I don't know, leading a volunteer team or serving on the board of directors or doing research or raising money, anything that requires their help and their guidance and their support in a successful ministry. Today, I get an opportunity to talk again with Reverend Jeff Ryan, and there are so many things I can tell you about him. But if you've been watching for a while, you know, I try to limit my introductions of people to 3 random facts that I know about that person, so that we can not waste time doing intros and get into the conversation. So 3 things I know about Jeff Ryan, Reverend Jeffrey Ryan. I know that he is an expert, affirmed by many as an expert on the visioning spiritual practice and how to integrate that into your life. I know and can share with you that Jeffrey Ryan speaks multiple languages, something I never expected because I'm just like you. I look at somebody and my brain says, oh, they're probably like this and like this and like this. And I would not have said that, I would not have guessed that Jeffrey speaks multiple languages. And the third random fact, Jeffrey Ryan is the spiritual leader and senior minister at Riverside Center for Spiritual Living in Riverside, California. And welcome, Jeff. I'm so glad you're here.
Me too. Glad to be here with you, Tracy. I always wonder, okay, what is she going to say this time? I don't know.
Yeah. So Yeah, just three random things. Anything else you would like people to know about you before we dive into this conversation?
Um, well, let's see. I am firmly committed now to making sure that I am taking my days off and taking my vacation time. So I am taking care of me, which I think is really important for any kind of inclusive church and any kind of a leader. We have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves too. So,
And on my end, it looks like I am freezing. Are you seeing that as well?
I am seeing you with your hands up, looking like you're getting ready to clap. And now
I
they're gone.
was I was clapping, applauding you for taking your time off.
Yeah, it's important. It's very important.
Oh, I am debating because I am seeing a big delay. Okay, so let me ask you the broad general question while I troubleshoot.
Okay.
You've said yes to being on the show today, and I know you well enough that there are 4 or 5 things that you and I can talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you pick one thing that is related to inclusive churches in New Thought and share that, and then we'll go from there. And I'll be troubleshooting in the background.
All right. So, one thing I'd like to share about inclusive churches and New Thought that we have available to us here, especially with New Thought Media Network, is if you are looking to expand your Spanish-speaking ministries, there is a beautiful resource that we have that we're using here at Riverside Center for Spiritual Living. I have been working with Emma Moreno. Many of you may know her, or some of you may know her. She has several several shows here on the New Thought Media Network channel, including prayer in the mornings, every morning for prayer in Spanish. And then she has meditations. And then she also has other shows where she and other practitioners and Spanish speakers are coming together and producing content in Spanish and producing New Thought content in Spanish. And it is really wonderful and glorious to experience this work that she's doing in the world. And in working with her and having conversations with her, what we're doing here at Riverside is we have arranged with her or we are in cooperation with her to have all of her programming that she is presenting here with New Thought Media Network also stream live to our Facebook page and to our YouTube as well, so that we can have that presence on our Facebook and YouTube, but also have a presence on our website so that we can then begin to increase our availability for Spanish language programming here at Riverside Center for Spiritual Living, with the idea of us having a weekly service facilitated by Emma or other Spanish-speaking practitioners that live all around the world. We have some Spanish-speaking practitioners that are living in China right now. So it's an opportunity for these practitioners to share their ministry and share their experiences with a larger audience as well. But it also provides our community at Riverside the opportunity to expand our ability to serve our Spanish-speaking population here in the city of Riverside. City of Riverside, we have about a 49% of our demographic is Spanish-speaking or Hispanic or Latinx or Latine is another way of saying that. So this is a great opportunity. And what I know for sure, having participated in the Convention of the Americas since 2020, and especially the past 3 years of having been to the Convention of the Americas in Chapala, Mexico, and being a keynote speaker and workshop presenter there, is that our Spanish-speaking communities are our fastest growing communities in new thought. They are the fastest growing. We have communities in Argentina, we have communities in Chile, we have communities in Ecuador, we have communities in and study groups in Colombia, as well as the Central America, as well as, of course, Mexico. But we're not only limited to that. We have Spanish-speaking communities growing here in North America, in the United States, and Canada as well. So there's a great opportunity for growth here, and the Spanish-speaking community is really drinking and expanding exponentially. And there's so much that we, as English-speaking community members, can learn from what they're doing as well. So this is a real great opportunity for us at Riverside CSL to work together with New Thought Media Network, work together with Emma Moreno and her team to begin to really produce and create content and to minister to and serve a much larger audience. And for us to do it collaboratively, working together, because there is so much, as I mentioned, that we can learn from the Spanish-speaking community. Us English speakers don't have it all down. You know, there are our New Thought communities that are only English-speaking in North America don't own all of it. We don't have the final word and final say on everything. There's so much being birthed and expanded upon and grown in our Spanish-speaking communities. And so this is what we're working on right now here with Riverside. So we're soft launching this week, and then our full launch is next week, Monday, September 16th, because that is the official start of Hispanic Heritage Month. And as well as being the Independence Day for Mexico, and September 15th, of course, being the Independence Day for many countries in Central and Latin America. So,
wow, wow, wow. So there are several things I want to dive a little bit deeper on.
Of course.
One is, my observation as well is that when I engage with someone whose primary language is a language other than English, and they are deeply grounded in science of mind or in the unity teachings, that there is another quality because in some ways to read Ernest Holmes, right, and then like to translate it into another culture, it requires you to one, really understand what you're reading.
Yes.
And two, to dive a little deeper, where a lot of times as an primarily English speaker, there's a lot that I read and my brain just kind of is on automatic processing it. So I've had some really powerful conversations with Spanish speakers and Kiswahili speakers, and people who are learning or have learned science of mind, and then a couple of folks from Nigeria who are in the unity movement, where they speak English fluently, but when they're teaching locally, they have to translate sometimes the concepts to people who speak other languages, not just English. So I think we can learn. I have learned a lot from going, well, what does that mean? Or by having someone ask me, what does that really mean? And then I have to explain it in a way with no jargon. And come up with an example that makes sense to them in their culture.
Right.
So that whole idea of learning about ourselves, learning about the new thought or metaphysical teaching, it is enhanced by doing that with people who speak a different language.
Absolutely. And the way things are expressed in other languages, right, is different. And language can't be separated from culture. So anytime we're speaking a language, we are also engaging in the culture of the language. And of course, it's multicultural. English is a multicultural language. Spanish is a multicultural language if we are looking at cultures in terms of like geographic locations or peoples, what have you. But there is this, because of the idioms that we use in English or the idioms that are used in Spanish and the way we phrase things and the way things are phrased in other languages and other cultures, the approach has to be also, it's not just let me translate this work from English into Spanish or English into Swahili or English into Japanese or whatever. There is the cultural context, there's the cultural nuances that are so important for a correct translation and a correct interpretation, so that the idea can be conveyed in the way that we think Ernest or the Fillmores intended.
Right. And that's tricky enough when we think, things, information and guidance that was written 100 years ago,
Right.
almost, right? It's like, that's tricky enough in the same language, let alone bridging cultural idioms and examples.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing that's really jumped out at me from what you were saying. Another was just this whole idea of partnership and collaboration.
Yes.
That we don't have to, in each ministry or each church does not have to create everything from scratch.
Right.
So I love this idea of collaborating with. It allows Emma Moreno's message to reach a larger audience. It allows Riverside Center for Spiritual Living to serve a community and people that might not have been as fully served in the past. Mm-hmm. And it just creates that partnership that we talk about, right? That we can do things together. So I love that as an example.
Yeah. So I talked about the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, which I can share with you more in a minute, this past Sunday. But one of the places that I happened to take that talk was around this word collaboration. Because frequently when we come together, especially if there's even slightly opposing views or what have you, then we think we might have to actually compromise, or we have to make concessions, or we have to compromise something. And anytime we make concessions or compromise, then we're really not getting the fullness of what we want, and the other party is not getting the fullness of what they want, right? Because we're having to give some of those things away. And so it can kind of leave us not fully satisfied and still feeling somewhat separate, even though we may have come together with some kind of an agreement on common ground. There's still that separation piece that's there. Whereas when we collaborating starts at a place of coming together, of me bringing my best self and you bringing your best self with a common goal, a common purpose, a common desire. And it starts from a place of wholeness. It starts from a place of unity. And most importantly, it starts from a place of equity. And so we come together then, bringing our fullness. I know saying that got your brain going, but coming together, bringing our best selves together, then what then happens when we collaborate is that we then create something, we co-create something that would not otherwise be possible if I were going it alone, or you were going it alone, or whoever was going it alone, that we are bringing our best selves together. I bring the best of my skills and talents, my ideas, you bring the best of your skills, talents, and ideas, and we collaborate together. We work together. We co-labor, work together to then co-create something that is even larger. Now, I know you want to ask me about equity, so go ahead and form that question.
No.
No?
No. I was
Okay.
going to say I will never think of collaborate again without breaking it into co-labor, like co-labor.
Yeah.
No, actually, yes. The way you used the word equity, yes, my head went, huh. But I'm much more interested in how all of that relates to the eagle and the condor.
Okay. So there is a prophecy of the eagle and the condor that is an Andean prophecy. It's been attributed to the Incas of the Andes, but there are other sources that that it can also be attributed to. That the Hopi in North America have a similar prophecy. But the prophecy basically states is that at one time the eagle and the condor flew in the same sky. So these were the eagle people and the condor people, all one people. And so the eagle and the condor flew in the same sky. And approximately 500 years ago or so, a little bit more now, the eagle began flying further and further away. In one aspect of the story, the eagle began flying further away. In the other aspect of the story, the eagle began infringing upon the territory of the condor rather than flying together. Either way, this happened roughly in 1490. And when we think of what happened in 1492, or what's been attributed of happening in 1492 with Columbus sailing the ocean blue, it is interesting to see that the condor people are attributed to being more mental, more linear, more of a more masculine type of energy, more industrial, much more thought. They are far seeing, if you will, like planning for the future and, trying to line things up for far out. Whereas the condor people are traditionally more heart-centered, earth-centered. There is a wisdom that is there, and it tends to be more associated with feminine energy. And so what the prophecy says is that now we've entered into this time and this space called Pachacuti in Quechua. Pacha is a combination of time and space. It's one of those beautiful words that we don't have in English that's just right there. It's just Pacha, right? And it refers to the concept of time and space, something that we need more words for in order to express it, right? And so a Pachacuti is an era. It's a time period, but it's also a place period. So a time and space, an era of time and space. So we've entered into this new Pachacuti where the condor and the eagle can once again have been prophesied to return to flying in the same sky, where the eagle people and the condor people will once again come together in a higher consciousness, in a lifted consciousness, and peace will reign. But it's only a prophecy. The condor people and the eagle people must come together to actualize the prophecy itself, to ensure that a higher consciousness is brought forth and that peace reigns. So where this collaboration comes in is, once again, if the condor people and the eagle people bring the highest and best of themselves, bring all the skill sets, all the wisdom, all the knowledge, all the love, all that they are, and come together and meet in a place of having peace, restorative wholeness, love, oneness, unity, be the common goal, then both sides bringing their best selves to this then raises the consciousness, lifts the consciousness, and makes it possible for an even greater yet to be to come into existence. And so this, then what they talk about is that the eagle and the condor once again fly in the same sky peacefully as brothers. And eventually, over the years, over the Pachacuti, the eagle and the condor merge so that there is no separation whatsoever between the eagle and the condor. So it's a beautiful prophecy. And what really makes this so important right now as we're into this Hispanic Heritage Month is that I've seen it at the Convention of the Americas, because at the Convention of the Americas, people from North America, of New Thought North America and New Thought Latin America, South America, Central America, come together at this one meeting point, bringing the best of themselves, understanding the teachings that we have in New Thought, and bringing our own understanding, bringing the best of ourselves, and something new is being created. A place of peace is being created, a place of love, a place of great expansion is occurring at this convention every year. And it is beginning to ripple out into both, it's beginning to ripple from that being the epicenter southward and northward. And it is absolutely beautiful to witness and beautiful to be a part of.
And it doesn't hurt that you're fluent in Spanish.
Well, it doesn't hurt.
However, I think that also makes it a natural responsibility to be a bridge.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And the convention itself is completely bilingual.
Right.
So you don't have to be a Spanish speaker. You don't have to be an English speaker if you're a Spanish speaker. You don't, because everything is, all the sessions, all the workshops are simultaneously interpreted, so that you have the simultaneous interpretation in your ear, so that you're never missing out. And the interpreters that we have there are top notch. They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah, and it helps that they understand the jargon.
Yes. And the cultures. So.
Right, to be able to shift in the moment.
Yeah.
So, you just, no, you don't know. So you just triggered for me in a positive way the reminder. I've been trying to anticipate seasons or celebrations and provide people with some tips or some things to think about. And I actually do have some notes to have a show next week that is around, hey, everybody, remember we are now in Hispanic Heritage Month, and that's what that means. But you just, kind of elevated that into this conversation as well, because what you reminded me of, and this is a perfect time of year with Hispanic Heritage Month, as speakers, whether it's an event, whether it's online, whether it's a Sunday talk, whether you're teaching a class right now over the next few weeks from mid-September to mid-October, the eagle and the condor, like using the prophecies, the folk tales, the fables and fairy tales or stories of cultures that are Hispanic cultures or Latino cultures during the services or the programs or the events is to make whatever point you were going to make anyway as a speaker or as a teacher. Like that should be mixed in throughout the year, but especially if you're not doing that or you haven't been doing that, that this would be a great time to take 25 or 30 extra minutes to say, oh, my talk next week is going to be about self discovery. Or even let's do something more simple. I'm going to do a talk about affirmations, what they are and why they work. And as a reminder, well, how about I go find a story that is grounded in a Spanish speaking culture? How about I go find someone online who speaks Spanish or who is bilingual, who has programming on affirmations, and feature them, a clip of them or affirmations that they have written, and show their picture, right? These are affirmations written by this person. We can't do too much of that all throughout the year, but especially during this month.
I agree. Absolutely. And quotes as well, depending on what you're talking about. There have been a wealth of leaders, especially in labor movements here in the United States, that, not just the United States, but, just thinking about here in the United States, some of them are still alive. Dolores Huerta, she was, or Huerta, excuse me. And she was at the DNC, the Democratic National Convention, as part of the representatives. So, seeing her and seeing other folks who have had an impact in the United States, in North America, in such a huge way, finding a way to work their stories in, finding a way to, what have they quoted, what have been their thoughts, and seeking it out with your neighbors.
Yes.
If you've got neighbors,
Yes. And you may have people in your own community. I know in my home community, home spiritual community, there is a woman who has gotten involved, like very deeply involved and engaged over the last 3, maybe 4 years. And to look at her, for most people would look at her and say, oh, well, she's another white woman in our community. Mm-hmm. And she is. Mm-hmm. However, I think she's not Venezuelan, maybe Costa Rican, but mm-hmm. she doesn't look Latina to 95% of the people who see her.
Right.
Because they expect her to have they expect anyone who identifies as Latina to have darker skin or, just look a certain way. And this particular woman does not present in a way visually that you would know. And she doesn't have an accent that is very noticeable. Mm-hmm. And so it's like every one of our ministries probably have people who could offer something or provide some authenticity. And we don't, of course, we don't ask people when they come to our communities, what race and ethnicity do you identify with?
Right.
So it's something over time that you make it known that you are interested, or you have some different events where people do get to share their ethnic and cultural backgrounds, so that when you are able or need to tap into different cultural groups, you can.
Mm-hmm.
That's what leaders do.
Yep.
Not just it's Hispanic Heritage Month, so every week I have to have somebody who speaks Spanish or who comes from Cuba, or oh, I think she's from Cuba, now that I say that out loud.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so it, because that's like me during Black History Month. I get so many requests. Can you come and speak during Black History Month? Well, there are only 4 Sundays. And beyond that, throughout the week, corporate clients are like, we want to have a Black speaker come because it's Black History Month. Well, my topic isn't about being Black. So, I mean, I can talk about that, but, why don't you invite me at some other point during the year when you want to focus on this area of expertise? So I'm not suggesting to ministers or to board members or to program planners from different ministries. I'm not saying that you go all in, and every speaker and every musician and every, quote is because it's Hispanic Heritage Month. And then come October 16th, you never mention it again. That would be horrible.
Oh, like what happens to LGBTQ month? So what happens to Pride Month?
Exactly. Same, right. Same thing. Oh, all of a sudden, we really want to see you, hear from you, support you, love you.
Rainbows everywhere. July 1st. No more rainbows. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so we don't want to fall into that trap, but we do want to make sure that we take advantage of modeling between September 15th and October 15th, making sure there's some visibility and then carrying that out throughout the year.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talk about the partnership and collaboration, the collaborating, the collaboration between Riverside CSL, Emma Moreno, and News on Media Network to a certain degree, since that's a platform. And we've talked about the importance of partnership and collaboration. We've talked a little bit about the Convention of the Americas. What else do we want to talk about related to being a church that is inclusive?
Well, first, I do want to say that we do have a study group in Cuba that is quite active, and they show up every Sunday and every Wednesday in programming that's offered on Sundays and Wednesday, and they get together and they show up, and it's fabulous. And so to see that is so exciting, and to be part of that is super exciting. It's just, mind-blowing that here I am sitting in Riverside, California, and, on the other end are folks in Cuba and Argentina and, everywhere else. So that's amazing what we can do now with technology.
Yes.
So on that point, also inclusive for technology too, I have now made sure that I now have subtitles in Spanish so that people can read subtitles in Spanish for anytime we're on Zoom together. There is that option of doing that. And then when I know that it's a bilingual atmosphere, then also on Zoom, I make sure that we have simultaneous interpretation wherever possible and have that turned on. Simple little things that make such a big difference. On Zoom, it's only $4 more than above your regular subscription to be able to have subtitles in people's languages, their native languages. So the subtitle isn't always perfect, but it's better than nothing. So, that's other ways that we can be much more inclusive in that way. So there's that technology piece. So here at Riverside, something else we've been doing, Tracy, is we now have something called the morning table. And this is what we've shifted to. Our whole programming has shifted to the morning table, where folks come in, they get their coffee, they sit down at tables. We do, opening music, we do invocation, etc. And then I do about a 15 to 20 minute talk, and then we break to tables and we have real conversations at the tables for about 20 to 25 minutes based on the theme of the day. And they're not questions. I have questions that are prompts, but they're not questions that are comprehension questions. There are questions that make you go deeper. Like, when was the last, so Sundays was, when was the last time you had to compromise and how did you feel? Right? Because we were talking about compromising and collaborating. And so when's the last time you collaborated? What did that feel like? How was that different? Tell us more about that. So those are the kind of conversation prompts that we have. And what we're noticing is there's a lot more engagement. People are sitting at tables with other people, because I also told them, if I see cliques forming, I have a way of breaking that up. But they've been monitoring themselves, which is great. We do have a very diverse and inclusive community here at Riverside, so we are blessed in that way. And what we're noticing is that there's even more inclusion happening, in that we have about 10 or so that are that are right around 40 or under 40, and they don't form their little clique. What they actually do is they are spread out throughout the room. And so what we're seeing, the inclusion that we're seeing, is a cross-generational inclusion that is happening. It's an intergenerational conversations are happening. There's a deepening that is going on there, and there is an engagement. Nobody can leave Sunday morning now and say, well, what did the minister talk about? Because they know, because they've been engaged in the conversation. And so it's not just about theory or me saying, okay, well, here's an idea for you to work with. They're actually taking the material, taking the ideas and going deeper within it and making it personal for themselves in that moment with the others seated at the table. The last 2 minutes too of our table time together, I pause them and they all share what they want prayer for from each other this week. So each table becomes the prayer pod, or the knowing and consciousness pod, whatever you want to call it, for the week.
I love all of that.
So much more engagement. It is just phenomenal what is happening, and the vibrancy and the vitality that's happening as a result of that.
What about virtual?
So our virtual folks, we have a Zoom room set up so that when we break to tables in the room, then our folks watching us on StreamYard, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, they can jump right into our Zoom table and join us at the Zoom table. And we have rich conversation at the Zoom table as well. So it doesn't matter whether you're in person or, they're in person. My mom, she joins from Las Vegas every week. We've got folks joining us from Canada, from across the country, from Mexico, from Peru. So, yeah.
We often forget when we are talking about being inclusive, many people forget that we are talking about multi-generational. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And sometimes people forget, you've mentioned several times the, across language and across borders, country or national borders. So I love that. That has come up so much. And we often don't include technology in our solutions. So this idea of engagement, we know people want to be engaged. We know this up here. Yet for many of our churches in New Thought communities, we still are operating under the minister standing on the pulpit model.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So thank you for sharing this example of the morning table, because I think it's going to inspire a lot of people, and maybe they won't do it on Sunday morning if they're really attached and think that their people are attached. But maybe they'll try it as either an alternate thing, or, on first Sunday, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Or we do it on, Saturday afternoon, because there are a lot of people who don't want to come to church on Sunday morning. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be a model for an alternate experience.
Absolutely. And for us, it's going to be no surprise to you, but it came out of visioning. It came through visioning. So it was just like, okay, and here you go. So I know that's no surprise to you. So.
Yeah. Why did I think I could have a 45-minute conversation with you and not ever mention the word visioning? Of course, as soon as I saw you, it's like, I don't have to mention the word visioning because you have on a visioning T-shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vision led, purpose driven.
That's our obligatory reference to vision.
Yeah.
And our time just flies. I love chatting with you and talking about inclusion from a different perspective. So, is there anything else that has popped into your mind that you want to be sure to share? And if not, what would be your closing reminder to people about being inclusive in spiritual community?
Okay. So the first reminder is that the Convention of the Americas happening in Chapala, Mexico, 2025 is happening July 22nd through July 26th. More information will be coming out soon, but we do have those dates. Once again, that's July 22nd through July 26th in Chapala, Mexico, about 45 minutes south of Guadalajara. The other thing I want to share with you about inclusion is that inclusion is intentional. It happens naturally, or it can happen naturally. But what I know for our communities is that it really does take some intention to make sure that we are including as many people as we possibly can across as many ideas and ways that we are unique as we possibly can. It's not just physical, it's not just language, it's not just cultural, it's not just able, it's not just age, it's all of it. It's all of it. And the more we as leaders can model being intentional with inclusion, the stronger our communities will be.
Okay, I can't add anything to that except maybe amen, hallelujah, that's right, you said it, drop the mic. I mean, right? So all I'm going to do is say thank you, Jeffrey Ryan, and we'll talk again real soon.
Absolutely. I love you much.
I love you too. And everybody, join me every Tuesday at noon right here on the New Thought Media Network. That would be noon Mountain Time on Tuesdays. I often will have a featured guest. We'll have a conversation about inclusion. And on those weeks when I don't have a featured guest, I do a toolkit session, which I try to keep to 30 to 35 minutes, just giving you some information and some resources and some tips that you can use to fire up your ministry and take your commitment to inclusion to the next level. For more information between shows, you can visit stainedglassspirit.net. Where throughout the week, each week, I'll post quotations to inspire you, sometimes articles or videos, just to keep me and you reminded we want to have inclusive spiritual communities. And like Reverend Jeff just said, it takes intention and it takes action. It won't happen automatically. So I hope to see you again soon. My name is Tracy Brown, and this is the Inclusive Church.
Thanks for watching The Inclusive Church with Tracy Brown. Join us again next week at 12 noon Mountain Time.